Okay, let's see. We got time. Let's talk about games. This week, I wanted to talk about the ruling, the decision that game addiction is a mental illness. So the problem here, if you haven't read about this, and you probably have if you're a gamer and if you're on this channel, you've probably at least heard about it. Sorry, the humidity's got my hair crazy and I'm sweaty and it's great. But the problem with gaming as a mental illness is it's not. And I know that sounds like a really broad way to just sweep this argument aside and speak. No, it's not. The reason it's not. So gaming, first of all, is a medium that we don't know a lot about. It's an interactive medium as opposed to things like, a lot of people compare it to movies, television, listening to music, things like that. If you go online, the counter arguments are always things like, well, if you watch this much TV, 20 hours plus of TV a week, it's not counted as mental illness. The mental illness part of gaming is 20 hours plus. That's part of the what they said, the ruling on that. So they said there's a lot of responses. They, being the community, they have pushed back that if you watch TV and blah, 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 this much, it doesn't count as a mental illness. The problem with that is you're comparing apples to oranges. Gaming is not a medium like anything else we've seen. You're talking about something that's extremely interactive, something that's extremely different than any other form of art we have. It has way different levels of interactivity than anything else besides playing like a board game or a card game or something of that nature. Past that, the interactivity with other people just spans far wider, in case you haven't noticed, than a board game or something like that, a card game, playing something, a Dungeons and Dragons, a role-playing game, something you sit down, a tabletop game, something like that. The same level of interactivity of that nature, where it's very in-depth, but literally on a worldwide scale. So you're talking about extrapolating a very small thing, video games as a whole, extrapolating that into addiction, and just saying if you do this little thing, you could be addicted if it's too long. But you're not exploring all of these different aspects. Are you saying that playing single-player games 28 plus hours a week is an addiction? Are you saying a mental health problem? Are you saying that playing any video games, period, 20 plus hours a week is a mental health problem? Because you're painting a very broad brush over things that people are getting from this. Past that, and we don't have much time, we've got about a minute left. Past that, there is a social aspect to games that's not anything else. You meet people in games that's not in other games. You can't sit down to a game of Dungeons and Dragons and meet the number of people you can in the same amount of time that you can playing a video game. If you picked up Fortnite and you went online and you met people in your group and you had your mic chat on and the social aspect, you play a game like World of Warcraft or any other MMO and you just meet tons of people, not all great people, but you'll meet people. So there's a huge social aspect, and we've got about 30 seconds left before we wrap this up. Past that, video games are filling this void of some sort of responsibility that other games don't fill. There's this constant sense of completion and this ever-evolving world that's out there, ever-evolving worlds, multiple of them, because you're talking about different games, and you're, again, painting with a very broad brush and saying anybody who plays games. You could have a person who plays a single-player game, a multiplayer game, and then a co-op game for 20 hours a week between the three, and say they're addicted to gaming, even though they're getting a completely different feedback loop from the different types of games. Maybe they're playing, the single-player game to relax, they're playing a multiplayer game competitively with a team that they are engaged with, and then a co-op game with their significant other in their downtime to bond that relationship. You're painting with a broad brush, and that's the reason this doesn't work as a mental illness. You're not giving it a fair shot at it being its own. It's a different thing. It's not something we understand yet. It's not something we can totally put a label on and put a lid on and say mental illness. So we're out of time. I will talk to you guys next week, but I'm going to jump out of the shot here, and we'll talk to you next week. If you have any questions, submit them on Twitter. Bye!